may remember me from my television shows in the 1980s and 90s, and now I host two regularly live-streamed virtual magic shows. One is a showcase for some of the greatest magicians in the world, and the other is a talk show featuring some of the most inspiring conjurers of our times. Welcome now to Magical People.
It's all
Shoot away.
good.
Fire away. I'm just going to have to kind of
It's all
really
good.
focus
So,
here.
the energy you bring to the table in your performances, let's chat about that because that can't be taught. Um, One can teach theatrics, one can teach movement, one which I've had all that training. But honestly, between you and me and who our huge audience, energy can't be taught. We can learn to bring our energies up. There's all kinds of techniques and things that we're both aware of, but as a performer, and you bring so much to the table with your energy. And I love when you throw your head back and you're really experiencing this and conveying it to the audience. Where is that coming from?
It comes from within. You
Yes.
know, it's true. You can't teach it. I remember years ago when my father was doing his lecture for magicians in Japan. And one of the questions was, how do you do that thing with your face, that look? And, and I remember, we were all laughing because a facial expression, an energy, a feeling that you can translate to your audience, that's not, I mean, it could be acting. Some people would say it's acting, but you can't fake a vibration. You can fake an expression, right? But a good actor acts or mimics, right? An actor
Yes.
will mimic. People can mimic an emotion, mimic a feeling on stage to translate, a story or a feeling. But unless they actually feel what they are trying to convey, it's not going to really it's not going to really come across to the audience as an authentic feeling. And
Absolutely.
I think that when people come and train with me, I don't teach them how to act out an emotion. I try to teach them how to get in touch with that feeling themselves,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then figure out a way to translate that feeling to their audience.
Absolutely. Do you find that
You know,
not everybody is suited, and some people may kind of not get it?
exactly. No, not everybody's suited because if you haven't done the deep, I mean, your performance is going to reflect who you are,
Yes,
right? And
yes,
most people who do magic are either hobbyists or, you know, the few professional, I mean, the professional magicians obviously take their craft very seriously, but there's so much focus and emphasis on their technique and their style, but there's something lacking in their substance, right?
yes, yes,
And because they've done all the work, all the mechanical work, and they've structured a nice, beautiful act, but they haven't done the deep work. They haven't done the inner work, the work on
yes.
themselves, right?
And that's a
If
whole
you look at
journey.
history and look at all the greatest artists and performers in history, and even artists like painters or writers, authors, musicians, singers, songwriters, all those people, everybody that you could encompass in the art form of performance, right? Or presentation. Most of the great artists of the world were kind of tormented folks, right?
Yes, yes,
They were flawed or broken by design,
yes,
um, shaped either from traumatic experiences from their past or just, you know, yeah, trauma from their past or just feelings of depth and existential crisis. I know that
yes.
that's very true for me. I came from a traumatic past, having a rather unconventional childhood. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but both my parents were flawed by design, which was what made them such great artists because they were able to translate that pain and that struggle into their art, into their work, right? It was
Absolutely.
a driving force in their success. It was a driving force in their self expression, which was something that people can relate to because everyone has pain. And I think that art, by definition, is pain.
Yes, yes,
Really, when you think about
absolutely.
it, art is pain, and and that's kind of one of the more beautiful aspects of being human is is the fact that we're so fallible and flawed, and and we use that catharsis to create art or to create a connection with the outside world because we feel so
Absolutely.
alone and we feel so disconnected, you know So I use art as a way to bridge that connection between, you know, my inner loneliness, I guess. I don't really like that word because I
Like
don't
that.
feel lonely per se, but I do and have felt, pretty isolated most of my life, right? Like I never really fit in. And I know I'm not the only one. A lot of people don't feel like they fit in. A lot of people
Absolutely.
you
Yes.
know, feel that sense of isolation and feel disconnected from from society at large. But that's because, and this is what I've come to really, conclude is that society as a whole is a construct, and it's a construct made of rules that people try to fit into. But then there are people like me that just don't fit into that mold, and we don't want to fit into
Yes.
that mold. So
Yes.
we don't get that job. We don't get up and go to our 9 to 5 job and get on that hamster wheel and collect fake friends and play politics and do all those things that we think we have to do in order to fit in. We become artists,
Yes.
and we live on the outskirts of society. We're fringe dwellers. I
Yeah.
certainly am, for sure. But because I am this way and because I am, constructed this way and wired this way, I think that's what gives me access to the emotions that I can translate and translate on stage and in performance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I have a question. It's a technical question, sort of, from one performer to another. I don't know if you've ever had these issues before, but as you grow and evolve inwardly, do you find that your exterior appearance on stage, either the character that you've created, which is really just a mirror of who you really are inside, do you find that there was ever a disconnect that you kind of had to pause and maybe fast forward to have on stage, have the physical reflect who you are again at
Yeah,
that time? Yeah?
100%, 100%. Um, yeah, no, I'm always transforming and changing and evolving on the inside. I'm not the same person today that I was 20 years ago
Yes.
or 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, right?
Yes.
And our bodies do, completely change on a cellular level every 7 years. Every single cell in our body has been replaced.
I've read it's now every 7 hours or so, or certainly
Well,
less
yeah,
than
I mean, our
24
body's
hours.
constantly regenerating. And as we
Yes.
age, that regeneration slows down, of course, but it doesn't have to. It all depends on how well we take care of ourselves. This, our motherboard, has a lot to do with how our body, you know, responds. But yeah, to answer your question about our physical appearance, our physical appearance does or should change as we change. And I think
Yes.
that one of the things that I see a lot in the performance world is, especially with magicians, is that they have a tendency to stay stuck in a character or in an image that they created 20 or 30 years ago, and they're just doing the same thing, the same act, the same costume, the same music, everything exactly the way it was when they created it, and they have
Right.
not been evolving. Like they might be different on the inside, but but they're so attached. They're so afraid of change. They're so attached to what they
Yes.
created initially that they haven't updated anything, changed anything. I just saw a wonderful act not too long ago, um, and I was thinking, wow, this act is really fantastic. But if it were to be updated, and by updated, I mean if the music was updated, if the costume was updated, if the presentation was just updated a little bit so that it wasn't so stuck in that, you know, that 1980s magic act, magic show kind of genre,
Yes.
it would be phenomenal today, you
Yes.
know?
Absolutely.
But, you can't force that kind of change on someone. That person has to do that work. Again, it's all about doing the inner work. If you are not working on yourself, then
Yes.
your performance is not going to reflect anything that is going to be remotely interesting, you know, to people that are watching it. I mean, you could do a magic trick, and of course, people are going to be like, wow, cool magic trick. They'll enjoy the magic trick, but are they really, really going to, enjoy the experience? Is it going to be
Exactly.
memorable? Is it something that they're going to talk about? You know, most people see a magic trick and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes later, they've forgotten about it. Guys,
Absolutely.
now's not the time, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That was an issue I had when I first moved to the West Coast almost 31 years ago,
Yeah,
Luna, because I had done about 250 shows a year for about a dozen years.
yeah,
And I was known as this character that was on television as well for 9 years. And so I move out here and it's almost like starting fresh because people don't know me from Adam, and I'm just by rote doing my character and doing my act, but it didn't feel right anymore. It wasn't who
yeah,
I was anymore. Not the
exactly.
way I looked, talked, dressed, nothing. So I went through this crisis as well, where I had to really sit with myself, and I believe we have very similar spiritual practices and beliefs. So I took the time. I thought I'm not going to give my audience anything less than it deserves. And furthermore, I don't like the way I feel when I'm on stage anymore. So it took me a long, long time to explore who I had become, who I had evolved into as a result of some relatively traumatic experiences as well. And then I found quite quickly, no, Michael, don't settle. Don't settle. You're still evolving. You're always evolving. So I found I had to keep up with that. I'm pretty happy now with sort of who I look on, the way I look on stage, the energy I'm giving out. People seem to like that, but that's only because I'm just coming from who I truly am inside. And that's how you move people in your performance. That's how I believe one moves people in their performances, is their authentic self is there. And hopefully their exterior reflects that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think there are different types of, there's as many types of performance styles as there are people. Uh, the performance style is going to reflect the person. Some people are naturally clowny, so they're going to have a more peppy kind of, hey, type of persona when they're
Yes,
performing. And that's okay. I mean, and those people usually are really great at parties or kids shows, or um, that's an arena that they are comfortable in. And but I think what's important is that if that is something that comes natural for you and that is something you enjoy doing, then you should keep doing that. But if that's
yes,
something that you're forcing because, oh, this is the only way I can get gigs, you know, and it's not how you truly feel on the inside, then you shouldn't be doing it. You should keep
absolutely.
exploring and seeking different and trying different characters until you find the one that resonates with you.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
I really am. Again, there are different schools of thought. There are people. There are people out there, mentors out there that will teach people to be entertainers. And remember, it doesn't matter how you feel. What's important is how your audience feels. I hear that a lot,
Mm,
right?
mm.
You have to always be projecting, you have to always be entertaining, you have to and I heard this a lot when I was growing up, developing myself, from people, from famous mentors, people that are recognized as mentors in our business, right?
Yes.
Have come to me early in my career, came to me early in my career and said, it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what you want. It only matters how you make your audience feel. I'm like, how am I getting, but that was confusing advice for me,
Absolutely.
because I thought, how am I supposed to make my audience feel anything if I'm not feeling it? I
Exactly.
want my audience to feel
Exactly.
what I'm feeling. And if my feelings aren't authentic, and I'm just like playing it's like the difference between, a magician is an actor playing the role of a magician. I heard that a lot growing up.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, that can't be right, or that rule of thumb just doesn't seem to apply to me,
Absolutely.
right? Um, I'm not going to perform a certain way or fit into a certain mold just because that's what people are telling me to do, or that's what I'm supposed to do. Because then I'm just gonna look like everybody else.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
don't want to be like everybody else. I don't
And
want
you
to
know,
perform like, I don't want
and
to do
you're
the
not
same dance
everybody else.
that
Everyone is an
everybody else is doing.
individualized expression. Yes. Right.
I'm going to do what excites me. I'm going to perform in a style that reflects who I am. I'm going to create material that I feel excited about, that feels natural in my hands. It feels natural with my flow, right? And I'm going to use whatever goddamn music I want to use, because
Exactly.
everybody else is using Cole Porter. So fuck that. I'm using rock music. And I did that in the
Yes.
1990s when everybody else was still performing to instrumentals.
Yes.
And I started using rock music with lyrics, and everyone thought that I was crazy. and I mean magicians, not general
Yes,
public.
of
General
course.
public thought, well, this is different, this is refreshing, but magicians hated me, and they were just like, what is she doing? This is this some kind of satanic act? you know
Ah, ah,
and they all try to force me into a gown and into high heels and be feminine and be elegant, and and all this stuff. And I tell you, I've gotten some of the worst advice on the planet when it comes to my personal development as a performing artist from some of the so-called greatest mentors in magic. I'm
yes,
just like, well, that might work for someone else, but it is, but in regards to me, you don't know what you're talking about.
yes. I think spirituality is the key, though, and
Yeah,
perhaps, and I'm going to sound judgmental here, perhaps these teachers, some of whom I probably know as well, are not spiritual. They're not, they're coming from, again, this is going to sound judgmental, a relatively superficial place.
right.
Right? So,
Yeah, yeah, that's yes and no, but yeah, most of the time, yes. Um, my mentor was Channing Pollock, just so you know.
whoa,
And
whoa.
I did not learn magic from him,
Yes,
performance magic.
yes,
I didn't need to. I learned a different type of magic. When I went to see him, he helped me develop myself as a person. He helped me deal with my traumas. He helped me, you know, figure out, how to, ask the right questions. And that was what shaped me, because I would say that he put me on the right path, right?
yes.
Instead of going, no, don't spend 8 hours a day practicing card manipulation. I mean, you can if you want to, and it won't hurt. But this is what you should really be studying.
Yes, absolutely. You were very fortunate. You were very fortunate to have him as one of
I
your
came to
teachers.
him by accident. I mean, he was
Ah,
always in my life. He was my father's, idol. And then later on, he became my father's manager. And so he was just somebody that was always there, but I didn't like actually start going to him until I was about 16. 16, 17 was around the time that I started, driving out to his home outside San Francisco and spending like weekends out there, with him. When his wife taught me how to do Tai Chi, and I learned about metaphysics, and I learned about mystical, different mystical like ideas and systems, and the thing that's interesting about Channing, and I don't know, nobody really talks about this because everyone just talks about his
the
magic act.
doves. Yeah,
But
the doves.
the thing about Channing is that he was only a magician for 7 years. His whole entire magic career only encompassed 7 years. And he
Crazy.
actually quit magic right when his career was at its peak. And you know why?
He wasn't feeling it.
He wasn't feeling it anymore. He got bored with it.
Yes,
He felt
absolutely.
like, yeah, he hit a glass ceiling, and he wasn't feeling excited about it anymore. He wasn't feeling passionate about it anymore. He was
Yes,
just, it just wasn't doing it for him anymore. So he
absolutely.
literally did his last show, loaded his whole act into his car, and gave it to his chauffeur, who was an amateur magician and a fan, right? The guy that drove his car, drove him around. And he said, I'm done. That was my last show. You can keep all my props.
I get that. I absolutely get that.
And another door had opened for him, an opportunity to be an actor. So he went to Italy, and he started his film career, right? And he did that for 7 years until that became boring and unfulfilling.
Yes,
And he moved on to
yes,
other things. So you see, he was somebody that was just kind of, a, walking existential crisis, like me. Like I have a lot of different interests. And I
Yes.
wouldn't say that magic is my number one interest. It was something that I was born into. It's something I'm familiar with. It's something I'm vastly knowledgeable about. I use magic as a artistic self-expression, but I don't
Yes.
sit here and practice sleights all day. I don't sit here and think 24 hours about what kind of magic trick I want to learn or do, or, it's like
Yes.
if I have those flashes of inspiration and go, I think I want to develop something along these lines, then I'll work on it, right? Usually I create a piece of magic because I have an emotion or a feeling or a message that I want to convey. So I'll
Yes.
use magic as the medium to do that. And then I have other creative outlets, like recently the jewelry. It's like, well, I'm really feeling this. So this has become a creative outlet for me. I'm also very deeply connected to my animals. So I do a lot of, animal husbandry and work in the, in that area as well.
Yes. Yes.
I'm also a writer. I've published a few magazine articles, but I haven't really. Currently working on three books, two poetry books, which I have finished but have not published yet. So hopefully soon. Bit of a procrastinator in that regard. Uh, Procrastination is a challenge for me because it's the product of an overly analytical mind,
Yes.
and I tend to take on a lot of different projects at once, and therefore I struggle getting them all finished. So I have been learning how to focus my attention on a single endeavor, one endeavor at a time, instead of having all these different things going all at once. Are you still
Very
there? Because I can't hear
exciting.
you.
Very
Okay.
exciting. I was going to bring up, um, and I think that some of our audience members out there will benefit from this if they're not aware. Um, we're aware, of course, and a lot of people we know are aware. The difference between, I'm cringing even thinking of this, being a commercial performer or commercial magician versus being an artist. And does the artist not feel profoundly? Does the artist not, well, perhaps the artist can wear the magician's clothes for a time, but if they're not expressing, if they're not being truthful to who and what they really are on a creative level and a number of other levels, they're not going to feel fulfilled. But perhaps if they are doing all this, they're feeling more fulfilled than they're being commercially or financially successful. I don't
Right.
care about being commercially successful anymore. Been there, done that, did a TV show for 9 years, had agents banging down my door. I did all that. And then once I moved out here, started feeling very phony. So, a lot of, I think it's important we address this. One should determine, depending on where they are in their life, and I get that there's a huge gamut of emotions and spiritual levels that where people are coming from. But please determine, do you want to make a buck from magic or music or whatever from an artistic endeavor, or do you want to be true to yourself? Can you do both? Is it
Yeah. So
possible?
that is indeed kind of a dilemma, um, something that I'm trying to navigate myself and figure out because, obviously I got into magic out of necessity, started, with a somewhat commercial act, or at least as commercial as I could make it. And I could never be commercial. That was the problem. So I wouldn't say that my magic career has been wildly successful in that regard, you know, because of it. Because there was always a part of me that just never really wanted to um, compromise my art, you know.
Yes.
And so, I could have learned how to do all that stuff and been a corporate magician, but that stuff is just so cringy for me, and it's soul
Yes.
sucking. Um,
Yes.
I did walk around magic, and some people are just naturally good at that, and I applaud them for it. Really, if you can do that, terrific, right? But I did. I used to do birthday parties, and I did weddings, and I did corporate shows, and hey, could you incorporate this product into your magic show, and blah blah blah. And it's like I said, there are people out there that can do that, and they're good at it, and they have the right mindset for it. Great, you know. I applaud them honestly. I just know that I'm not that kind of person. And when I did do those things back in the day, when I did do those kind of shows and those kind of gigs, I hated every second of it. I
I
hated every
believe
moment
that.
of it. I hated dealing with the people. I hated the stupid comments that they would make. I would hate, the way they would try to burn me and mess me up, which was, and it's not that I wasn't, didn't feel confident in what I was doing or confident in my skills. I just hated the energy and the attitude
Yes.
of it. Oh, I think
Yes.
I know how you did that, or I have no
Oh.
idea how you do that, but I'm going to find out, or hey, can you
Can you
make my
make my
wife
partner
disappear, and
disappear?
blah 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 blah
Oh.
blah. Just
Oh.
stupid, the endless dribble of stupid comments that people make to magicians day and night,
Yes.
and it would, you know, it would hurt my sense. It would hurt me. Like I didn't know
Yes.
how to let that shit just roll off my back. I would just
Yes.
get so like, I'd come home and I'd feel so drained and just, you know, I just
Unfulfilled. Yes.
unfulfilled and just like what why, honestly, I would rather work in a coffee shop making people coffee to
Yes.
collect a paycheck
Yes.
than be compromising my art for the sake of
Absolutely.
some, so, but
Absolutely.
that's all really comes down to choices. People, other magicians, professional magicians out there, they're making a lot of money doing what they do, and they're doing whatever it takes to bring home that paycheck. You know what I mean? Some of them actually enjoy it. Other people do it because it's a way to pay their bills, right?
Yes.
And that's okay. We're all different, so I'm not saying that it's good or bad.
Yes.
Um, I'm just saying that you have to figure out what it is, what it is, why you do magic, and are you doing it for fun? Are you doing it, do you want to make it pay your bills? Because then that's a different set of rules, different market, different approach. you know that's what you have to decide. What type of magician are you going to be, and how much money do you want to make doing it, or does it matter to you whether or not you make money with it? I make money doing other things.
Yes.
Magic does not pay for my life. Magic does not really pay my bills. you know I know
Yes.
that. I figured that out. I learned that a long time ago. It could, but the sacrifices I would have to make and the compromises
Exactly.
I would have to make in order to do that aren't worth it for me. So I found other ways to make income.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'll recommend a book that I really love that really helped me with that decision and helped me understand the whole monetary system. Okay, in terms of your art, and it's a book by, I'm trying to remember her name. Is it Elizabeth Gilbert? Called Big Magic. It's called Big Magic, and she talks a lot about inspiration, right, and the genius gene. Like where that comes from. When you
Very
suddenly
good.
get like that amazing idea. And the thing about ideas is that creativity is not an inherent trait. It's a learned trait. It's a muscle that you have to exercise, right? And anyone can have a great idea. In fact, multiple people can have the same idea at different times. And that's, how she explains that and how she breaks that down in theory in the book is really interesting. But one of the things that she said in the book that really would profoundly spoke to me was she said, if you are an artist and if you treat your art like it's your baby, like if it's something that is, if your art is really important to you and you care about it and you care about how it expresses itself in the world, don't expect your art to pay for your life. In order for
Very
your art
good.
to be free and creative and flowing, you must allow it to exactly be that. You must allow it to just be free and not put restrictions on it. Because when you're like, I need to make money selling this book, I need to sell this book, I need to get that gig, I need to get that job, I need to work here, I need to do that, right? When it becomes a need because you need to make money with your art, that's when you start
Wow.
compromising. That's when your creativity
Absolutely.
starts getting blocked. That's when things don't start flowing anymore, right? Because you're
Absolutely.
putting too much pressure on your art to pay for your
Absolutely.
bills. So you need another job. You need a day job, or you need some alternate income stream, another funnel, right? That efficiently, pays for your life, so
Yes.
that your creative side of your life can just be simply that. If eventually your creativity grows to a level where it becomes in demand and people actually want to pay you for it, wonderful. You know what I mean? That can be the perk and the outcome, you know, of that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a danger in
But you
that,
should
though,
not,
I found.
demand that of it.
Exactly. I found that there's a danger in that. And I'll elaborate, and hopefully some people can relate to this out there as well. When I first, hmm, when I first was doing magic, I just loved it. I did it for fun. I started off as a child, and it was always in my spare time. I was a graphic designer by trade. I wasn't making a living by magic. Then I moved to this lovely city in the Midwest, Midwest Canada, and I was just being me, screwing around with magic. And people loved me and they loved my energy. And it's like I'm thinking, are you kidding me right now? And it just started growing. And all of a sudden, I'm having agents banging down my door, like literally three or four fighting for me. And I'm just loving what I'm doing. And I'm making people laugh, or I'm astounding people, whatever, mystifying people, if you will. And I guess I got caught up in that whole thing. It's like, you mean I can make thousands of dollars on a weekend doing what I love? And and so it was for many years, for about a dozen years or so, until I jumped off the wagon, jumped, or whatever the expression is. And because I wasn't enjoying magic anymore, I forgot why I was doing magic because I was so caught up in other people making money off of me. And me, I won't lie, I was enjoying the money as well and all the perks, if you will. So yeah, that I found was a danger. I was getting away from myself, just loving what I'm doing. The same thing with music. I never allowed that to become a big deal as well. But magic is something I don't know if I will ever share publicly again because I love it too much. And anyway, that's
I
a
think
whole
you
other
can do
thing.
both, though. I think you can.
I
Like
suspect
that's what I
so.
came to the conclusion of, is that I think that you can do both. I think you can make money doing what you love. You just have to find the audience. You just have to find your audience.
Very good.
And that's
Very
the
good.
hardest part, is connecting with the right people, the people that actually want to see you,
Yeah.
that will pay to see you.
Yeah, yeah. Very
And I
good.
don't feel like I found that yet, but and that's partially my fault. Like I'm just starting to really learn about social media and how to promote myself through it and use it, as a tool, right? I feel like I do have a strong mess. I feel like I have a lot of messages and a lot of things that I want to share. So, I hope that I'll be able to get my books published so that I can get my knowledge and my thoughts out there in that
That's
format.
important. It's very important what you have to
I think that
say.
there's just so much noise on social media and so many people trying to be influencers out there, and we're just bombarded with a sea of,
Yeah.
reels and you know everything, right? There's just so much. Like I post daily. Sometimes I post humor, sometimes I post just, whatever, right? I post whatever I feel in that moment.
Yes.
Sometimes um, sometimes I'll post something. And what's really interesting is that sometimes I'll post something from the Luniverse. Like whenever it says with love from the Luniverse at the end, that's usually like some of my more deeper thoughts, right?
Yes.
And those posts hardly get any engagement. People don't really, only a few people will actually take the time to read it and reflect on it, right? The posts that
Yes.
always get lots of engagement is either, a short performance post, like when I posted my zombie from the festival, um,
Yes.
tons of views on that, right? Of course, um, which is great, if I post stuff, about my animals, or if I post something silly and stupid, a meme, right? Tons of engagement. But
Yes.
if I post something real, something deep, um, hardly any engagement. If I if I post a crisis, okay, then a lot of people, the caring souls will suddenly, come out of the woodwork and want to come in and let and support and stuff, right? So it's being able to really understand the environment and what is it that people are resonating. Like right now, there's the whole country is in a, in dis-ease right now, right? With just the political state of things. There's major reconstruction happening in our lives, major reconstruction happening with our construct. And a lot of people are
Yes.
feeling very, you know, uh, dislodged and fearful, right? So there's a lot of, back and forth going on and speculation and assumption and, all that. So it's a very, very turbulent, very unstable time right now within the construct, within the matrix,
But that's important, though, isn't it, for true change, for true
It
evolution?
is. And that's the thing that I think that people, don't see is that everyone, everyone, and this is normal, everyone has a tendency to look at world affairs and global affairs from a purely subjective point of view. Subjective is looking from the, from the inside out, right? And a subjective opinion or point of view is something, is a perspective that is run through every individual's own filter, right? And it's
Yes.
it's marked by their fear, it's marked by their cynicism, it's marked by their, what all that stuff that is, that is brewing and stirring within a human being, right?
Absolutely.
Is going to, affect how a person views the world and
Yes.
views, what's happening, because everyone is in a different evolutionary, state,
Exactly.
in a different
Exactly.
state of life. So that's why it's hard, right? Because everyone's experiencing their life and experiencing the world from a subjective point of view. And the thing about people and energy is that, when enough people come together that share the same collective opinion, then, it becomes a movement, or it
Yes.
becomes, or it
Yes.
can become a cult, or it can become whatever, it can become a cause. But not all causes are really good.
Yes.
Sometimes a
Yes.
cause will start off with good intentions, and then it'll turn ugly, and
Yes.
it turns
Absolutely.
people ugly. It makes people ugly, right?
Yes. That's
Because
absolutely
they
true.
end up becoming so feverish about their cause that they lose
Yes.
sight of, you know what's right or wrong. They lose sight of reason
That's true. That's
and
absolutely
common
true.
sense. Yeah. So that's why it's very important to cultivate an objective mindset. Objective means I only look at things by observing what is going on, right? And collecting information from all sides.
Yes.
And yeah, so when you are
Yes.
experiencing the world from as an observer, kind of like if you were watching a movie, right? You're watching a movie, and sure, you're stirred by the characters and what's happening, and you have emotions and feelings about it, right? You get somewhat invested in the experience, but your mind is fully aware that you are watching a movie, that it's not real,
Absolutely.
that you
Absolutely.
are just an observer of the experience, living vicariously through these characters, but it's not. But once the movie is over, you're not directly impacted or affected by it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Well,
So
so developing an
objectivity.
objective perspective when it comes to the world at large in your reality is, I think, a valuable tool, and it's also important because, like I always tell my kids, oh, when they start getting really worried about things, I'm like, and people get like kind of pissed off, when I say this sometimes because they're looking at it and experiencing it from a subjective point of view, right? They're taking it personally, right?
Yes.
But I always say, and Channing taught me this. Channing, I used to come to his house, oh, worried about the state of the world. And I'm like, did you see this on the news? And, have you seen what's happening with this and that and blah, blah, blah? And he would say, leave all those troubles and those thoughts and those fears outside my front door, please. This is a house of peace. Do not enter with that baggage.
Very good. Very
So I'm like,
good.
okay, all right. And then he comes in and he's like, I don't watch the news. I don't turn on the TV. I don't listen to what's going on. You know, none of, whatever's happening in the world is none of my business, he said. Unless it is directly coming into my backyard or through my front door and affecting me directly,
That's
right?
true.
I don't
Absolutely true.
put any tension or energy into it.
Absolutely
Because
true.
here's the thing, I studied with a Buddhist monk many, many years ago. And the very first lesson right out the door was your positive karma affects the positive karma of the world. Your negative dogma or karma also contributes to the negative karma of the world. That means that
Absolutely.
whatever, the more negative you are, the more angry you are, the more opinionated you are, right? And the more you express that and put that out into the ethers, okay? The internet is like the astral plane, right? Everything goes out, everything is vibration and energy. So
Yes.
whatever you throw out
Yes.
there is going to reverberate, you know, and it's going to, expose is going it gets exposure, right, around the world to all these people that are tuning in to that channel. So if you're throwing out nothing but negativity and opinions and hate and anger, then you're contributing to the
Absolutely.
negative karma of the world.
Absolutely.
You're actually making things worse by, you know, by fueling that fire, right?
Absolutely.
If you want more love, you want more peace, you want more protection, you want more stability, you want, then start being an agent of peace. Start vibrating at the level and frequency that you want to see and experience in your life.
It's true. Absolutely.
And
Words
Gandhi
of
said it best,
wisdom.
right? It's the most famous quote of our time. Be the
Yeah.
change you want to see in the world.
Exactly. Exactly.
And how are you going to
Yes.
do that? By judging, oh, I'm a Democrat, but my friend is a Republican, so I hate him now. How is that going to help anything? How about
Exactly.
let us all, live and let live, right? The Beatles said, live and let live. You know what I mean? Everything's going to
Absolutely.
work itself out in the end. And
It's
yes, we are
true.
going through big changes, and it does look scary, and it does make us uneasy, but change is necessary, and it's inevitable,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
It's
It is
inevitable. And
necessary for us to
so
grow and
it's just a
evolve.
question of,
Yeah.
how that's going to unravel.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
And there's
time to
always a
wrap
period
up.
of peace and then a period of war and instability,
It's
and then
cyclical.
we come through that, and then we're back in a more stable
It's
kind of.
always cyclical. It
It's
is.
all
It's
cycles, yeah. So
I
don't get too
don't want to
attached to
wrap
the
up,
cycle.
but we have to wrap up for now.
Yeah.
And you know what that means, don't you? We'll have to get together again another time
Okay.
and elaborate again and chat because I think it's really, really important. I'm not just trying to be nice, but I believe that your words and the energy that you share, if you want to call it wisdom, then I'll use that word. But I believe it's very, very crucial what comes out of your mouth and out of your heart and out of your mind, Luna. And that's why I'm so honored and thankful that you did join me this day, that you did agree. And hopefully we'll do this again because it's really, really important. Um, I feel really superficial to bring up things like, okay, if people want to contact you or buy your talismans and jewelry,
Well,
how
no, by all
can they?
means, I love
Okay,
helping people, and I would love to do more of that work.
good,
And
good, good, good.
um,
Because the energy is so important. You're sharing a higher energy with other people, and it's so important for healing and for evolution.
it is.
Um, they'll find that out. I think they're finding that out in time. Your business is called Moon Dove Creations and Talismans. How can
That is
people
the jewelry
reach that?
business, yeah. But if anyone wants to contact me directly about anything else, just yeah, find me on Instagram or Facebook, Luna under Luna Shimada. I'm kind of all over everywhere, so I'm easy to find.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us
You're
this day,
welcome.
Luna Shimada.
Yeah,
I'm honored. I'm honored. I truly am.
yeah.
And
Thank you for
I
having me and for allowing me to, express my thoughts about various things.
it is an honor. It is
I hope
indeed
it's
an
helpful
honor.
for people too.
Exactly. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it was. I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of you.
We didn't really get to do a lot of Q&A, but if anyone wants to stay in a room, I have a few minutes after.
Very good. We'll do that in a few minutes. Stick around, everyone. We're just going to wrap up the formal show part, but do stick around. I'll see you in a moment. Don't go away, Luna. I want to thank all of you out there for joining us this day. We did go a little bit long, but why not? I think it was really, really important. We're here every Saturday at 1 p.m. Western Time, 4 p.m. Eastern or New York time, and of course 9 p.m. It was 8 p.m. UK time for a little bit, but it will be 9. We'll see you all. Thank you so much. We'll see you very soon.